I'm very proud of the farm. I'm proud of our two sons who have come back to the farm. And I think that with technology and with hard work, I think it's all really good in ag right now.
There's all kinds of opportunities for almost anybody in any field, whether it be genetics or environment or production ag, to have a place in agriculture and the food system in the future.
Welcome to Farmside Chat. I'm Zippy Duvall, your host and president of American Farm Bureau, and today I have with me Patti and David Fisher from New York. They're dairy farmers there. Also, David is the president of New York Farm Bureau, and Patti presently serves as chairman of our Promotion and Education Committee. We're going to hear from them today about farming in New York and also how their sons are there, part of their family farm, and how you get it all done in upstate New York. I want to welcome you to the podcast today and would love for you to share with our listeners about your family and your experience in your dairy farm.
We are a dairy farm family in northern New York, right on the Canadian border, the St. Lawrence River Valley. Our closest city is probably Ottawa, Canada. We farmed there. I'm the seventh generation, and happy to say that our sons, Jordan and Jacob, are the eighth generation who are taking over and growing the business. Ancestors came from Scotland in 1820 and settled in that area, and at that time they paid $7 an acre for the land they bought.
Nearest city in Canada. Ooh, that sounds cold to this old Georgia boy. I don't know how you stand that, and I don't know how the cows stand it. So I admire you. It's got to be a tough job. So, Patti, tell us a little bit about your side of the family and what you do on the farm, and also like for you to expand on what you do here at American Farm Bureau.
Okay, so I have an off-farm job. I actually just retired this past week. I was a high school business teacher, and then I took a job as what we call an instructional coach, which means I go into school districts and help teachers in the area of technology. So all of the recent talk about broadband is really interesting to me because I've seen it in schools of how it affects students if they do or do not have broadband. Mostly I helped raise our two sons so that they could come back and be farmers, I guess. And I am currently the chair of the Promotion and Education Committee for American Farm Bureau. Just got that role in March. So I'm here in D.C. getting my arms wrapped around that to see where we're going to go with that.
So we have 12 states across the country, Farm Bureau states, that have promotion and education committees. So can you tell the listeners in the other states maybe what the Promotion and Education Committee does at the national level and why it's such a great committee to have working for you?
So at the national level, we do outreach and we support the state level promotion and education committees. We provide resources, we work with them, we can be a conduit for all of the states who have promotion education committees existing and help to bring all of their resources together so that we have some states that are fairly new at promotion and education. We can provide resources for them. Our biggest mark, I think, is to do outreach to the public, to consumers. There's so much misinformation in social media these days about food and about food labels and where our food comes from. I think that's a big piece of what promotion education can do, is to just educate consumers as they're buying food.
As I travel the country, I talk to a lot of farmers and Farm Bureau about the issues that we face, and we all know that the issues politically or and policy-wise is what we were created to do. But I've also been told that public opinion is risen to the level that policy has risen to, and it's just as important. So we appreciate the work you do as chairwoman of that committee and the work that the committee does, and I think that's something we'll see grow across the country. David, you thought I was going to leave you out, but
I think I'd like to expand on the promotion education.
Sure.
I think in our political climate, especially in New York, completely controlled by New York City, and people that don't understand rural America, rural New York, in our situation. This young promotion education committee is very crucial and probably one of the most underrated that we have as far as connecting with urban consumers. And I think the importance of that can't be stressed enough.
So what about your position as president of New York Farm Bureau? What are the biggest issues outside the ones you just mentioned that y'all face there?
One of those things, and then labor. Everybody is concerned with labor, the tightness of the labor market, and finding good people and keeping them, and the cost and things like that. As minimum wage has gone up in New York faster than most other states, and now we have overtime coming. It's going to be a bigger concern. Adoption of technology, but when the prices have been low for a few years, and the implications of trade have made it tough for everybody.
We look around the country, and the economy is great everywhere except in agriculture, and we're suffering dearly for that. And I don't think the average consumer really understands the pain that we're going through out in farmland right now.
No, and then with that is coming changes in rural life. There's a lot of poverty out there in rural America with drug problems and other things. And with the consolidation in agriculture going on, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to town boards and school boards when they don't have small business people, which have been farmers, to typically cast a guiding light over those boards. It's changing a lot of things, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where all that goes in the next few years.
I had an experience on a plane not long ago. It kind of mirrors that. I was talking to a young lady about what I did, and she said, well, you're Farm Bureau president, but do you farm? And I said, of course I do. And she asked me what I did, and I said, well, we got 400 beef cattle, and we've been in the chicken business for 34 years, and we raise about 750,000 chickens a year. And she covered her mouth and took a gasping breath and said, oh, you're one of those factory farms. So tell us, David, milking 3,000 cows, are you a factory farm? And what can you tell the listener to convince them that you're not?
No, I don't think we are. We are a lot of family in our business, and as the family grew, the business grew. My sister started out, my dad and I. My sister has been a partner for 30 years, and I have two brother-in-laws involved in the business, and now two sons. And my uncle is still there every day, telling us what we should or shouldn't be doing. And if you look across, at least New York, I believe there's only two farms in New York that are owned by what you could call a company. The rest of them are all family businesses of various sizes.
Sure. And the dairy industry is made up from 50 cow herds to thousands of cows.
It is, and some really exciting things going on with some creative people. One I can cite that only milks 11 cows, but they make all their milk into cheese and sell it privately and make a living for themselves. Right. So a lot of creative young entrepreneurs out there in agriculture.
But whether you're big or small, we hold the same values as far as taking care of our animals and the land that we grow our crops on to feed the animals. So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Conservation practices are crucial in our business. We've learned a lot in the last 20 or 30 years and changed how we do things with cover crops and value soil health. The soil is a living part of our farm operation. Most people wouldn't think dirt is alive, but it's full of microbes and bacteria, and you have to keep them alive all year. So it's all part of our crop program, our nutrient program, and the environmental things that we do. With the nutrients from the cows to grow crops, saves buying commercial fertilizers and just a recycling process. And along those lines, a lot of technology has been implemented in those practices to allow us to do things more efficiently and faster.
I know that at Sunday lunch, you and your boys and your families are together and y'all are talking probably the same talk. Why don't people understand us here on the farm? So what do you tell your sons when you have those conversations, Patti?
Well, mostly I talk about that they just don't know. It's not that they're trying to pick on them or say things that aren't true. They just don't know. So it's really our job to help them know what's going on. And that the boys should take pride in what they do, and they should be very open to having people come and look at what happens on our farm because they do a good job. We had last fall, we brought 20 guidance counselors from our area schools, and we did some tours for them just so that they could see the job opportunities in our county for agriculture. So we toured a feed mill and we toured a fertilizer plant, and then we, after some persuasion, they toured our farm. And they were they couldn't believe it. And we have a very rural dairy-based county, and they had no idea how much technology, how much work went into a dairy farm. So that was a really eye-opener for them, and it was good for the boys to open up the farm and let them in.
Well, Patti, in your discussion or the conversation with me about Promotion and Education Committee, you mentioned broadband. I'd love for you to expand on that, you and David both, about how important broadband is to rural America and rural New York, and what your committee might be doing to bring attention to that.
Well, when my first perspective on that, obviously, is through education and talking to teachers, because many of our students don't have access to broadband to do things at home and all of the information that's available to them. And then as we've seen technology grow and grow and grow on the farm, not having access to internet, to broadband, to wireless, to all of those technologies is really, it's limiting the efficiencies, I think, that the farmers have access to. Everything you see now, it says, oh, go to our website and check this out, or you can find more information at our website. And if you don't have access to that, then you're already at a disadvantage right out of the gate. So I think it's going to be just like when everybody needed a telephone. So we did what we did to make sure everybody could get a telephone. I think we're at that point with broadband. We need to make sure everybody has access to broadband. Schools are being a little creative. If students need internet at home and they don't have it, then the schools, through grants or however they can, are purchasing the wireless hotspots from like Verizon or one of those places, and they'll loan them out to students so that they can take them home and do work or whatever they need to do. So that's how the school is trying to address that problem. I'm not sure how we can help our farmers with that yet. I think that's going to take a lot of discussion, but it's really important.
Yeah, one of the taglines that I've started using is broadband's not a luxury anymore; it's a necessity. Mm-hmm. Not just in medicine, where rural doctors or rural hospitals can access the medical records and connect with other doctors around the world to help us in our health issues. It's very important to the national security of this country that we be able to be as productive as we can on the farm, and it's going to take broadband for us to be able to stay on the cutting edge of technology and be the leader of feeding this world. And so, David, what's your perspective on that?
No, you're absolutely right. It's crucial. Both on the animal side and the machinery side. All these new pieces of equipment, tractors, combines, everything else comes with the capability to hook to the internet. And if we don't have it in rural areas, we can't. So if any little sensor goes down or something on a combine or a tractor, it has the capability to shut it down. And the best way to reconnect and figure out what's wrong, because a lot of times with consolidation of machinery dealers, they're an hour or 2 or 3 hours away, or you can't get somebody, but there are people ready through the internet to look at that, log right into the computer in the tractor or combine, troubleshoot it, and help you fix it 24/7.
America's taken the lead on so many things, and we've also taken the lead on technology out on the farm, but we're going to be limited if our policymakers don't recognize the need to expand that system where we can use it on all farms across America. We're going to be very limited as to how we can take that lead. I've had the pleasure of serving on the board of directors of Connected Nation, and it started out as an organization that mapped the usage of or the availability of broadband. And you would be surprised at how wrong the maps are as to whether an area of the country is covered or not. And those maps were drawn up by larger companies that were providing those services. So we're trying to bring attention, not just to American Farm Bureau, but other coalition groups like Connected Nation, to bring attention to how important those maps are, because what those maps say is directs the federal government and where they send the dollars to try to improve it. So we want to make sure that they're accurate and that rural America does have a fair chance in the future. You know, one of the things I see as I travel the country and I go to rural communities is a big discussion of how do we keep our young people at home, or how do we bring them back home from college to our rural communities and keep our rural towns alive and thriving. And broadband is one of those secrets. Young people are not going to live where they don't have access to broadband. And so it is so important to the farm, it's so important to the medical industry, and it's so important to the livelihood of our rural communities, because not all of us can live in the big city. If we did, we'd all starve to death, because someone's got to be out there on the farm growing the crops that we consume each and every day.
Well, I think even for our committee work, because it's a national committee and we're all spread out, we rely heavily on having a good broadband connection so we can do video conferencing with each other. And, you know, instead of having a meeting once a month, because we couldn't possibly do that, we have a video call once a month.
Right.
And there are a couple members that don't have good connection, so it's a struggle for them. So, you know, there's big and small examples of how we really need it.
So, David, when you talk to your boys or other young people across the state of New York, what do you tell them about the opportunities in agriculture?
There's great opportunities. You know, it's a great way of life. Raise a family on a farm, teach work ethics and values and
now, you're
things
making
like
it
that.
sound easy, though. Is it easy?
It's not easy. It's ever changing, but you somewhat control your own destiny. You feel the rewards of what the work you put into it and the decisions that you make. So it's great in many ways. And there's a lot of good entrepreneurial people out there finding new creative ways to make a living in rural New York. And I'm very proud of that.
Young people love technology, and they think on the surface that if they go to agriculture, they're not going to be in the part that they love. And I want to challenge them to go look and see all the technologies that are being used on American farms today, and the opportunities that are there for them to be involved with what they like best, and that's technology and computers and everything. And because they exist on our farms, and if they don't exist, that farmer's really suffering because he's not. So good farmers are taking advantage of those technologies, and they're good businessmen. If they weren't, they wouldn't be in business today, and you and I both know that. So what would you say to our farmer members and our Farm Bureau members across the country as to how they should hear what you said today and how they should be involved and help us move forward as an industry?
Well, I think we need everybody involved and in the conversation. If you're not in the conversation, you don't have any say and any influence in it. So just get involved, be involved in your county. And the County Farm Bureau is what our state and national organization is all about.
But, David, I'm going to have to write a check for membership. What am I going to get out of that? I get that question all the time.
You get all kinds of things that aren't seen. And, you know, if you can't be in your state capital or in Washington, you have people there working for you, doing research, speaking on your behalf, and representing the interests of rural America.
And you're not part of an organization like Farm Bureau, then someone else is going to tell your story, and they won't tell it correctly.
Right.
So we encourage all farmers across the country to be part of the Farm Bureau family. Of course, we encourage people to be part of their commodity organizations. I'm sure you're part of the dairy group there in New York. But to think that you're just going to go to a meeting and just deal with dairy, that's not how we fix problems, because we fix problems helping American agriculture.
No, all the commodity groups are very important, and they play a role. But Farm Bureau is the glue that holds them all together,
Exactly.
And that's why it's so important.
Well, I want to thank you, David and Patti, coming in and spending a little time with me. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to wrap it up. And if there's any last thoughts or encouraging words that you could share with our audience, I would like to give you that opportunity.
I would just like to say I think there's great opportunities. You know, as we look at the potential for population growth in the next 20, 30 years, the demand for food is going to double, and that's our business. So it's exciting to me to have my two sons back on the farm. They're growing our business. and many others are. And I see many other young people getting into new ventures and other things. As fast as technology is changing and the environmental things that are coming along, there's all kinds of opportunities for almost anybody in any field, whether it be genetics or environment or production ag, to have a place in agriculture and the food system in the future.
I'm very proud of the farm. I'm proud of our 2 sons who have come back to the farm. And I think that with technology and with hard work, I think it's all really good in ag right now.
Thank you today for joining us on a Farmside Chat. I enjoyed my conversation with the Fishers and hearing them talk about their family farm in upstate New York and how their sons have come back home to work the farm with them. That is a beautiful part of our country, and I hope it encourages you to take a visit there to experience that. We encourage you to sign up for our podcast and leave us some messages as I take you across the country talking to farmers and policymakers that affect our lives each and every day. Hope you have a great day, and God bless you.